And we are live. Felicia, I'm so glad to
Aloha.
meet you. We are
Uh,
back with another amazing author from Begin with the Breath, our collaborative work within the breath framework. And it's so cool to be here with you because this is the first time, Felicia, that I have a one on one with you. So tell
is
us something
it?
about yourself.
Yeah. Is it our first one? I guess we've been in
Yeah,
so many
just
like business meetings, but I guess it's our first one-to-one. So it's kind of like our first
looking
audio
forward to
conversation.
this.
Aloha. So let's start off with my name means happy, but I wasn't always happy. So I had to figure out a way to discover how to live out my namesake, and that has been a big part of my journey to begin as we talk about in the breath framework, and to basically live smart.
It is
Hello.
live smart, and I will be learning more about that today.
Yes.
Yes. So you call yourself a Proverbs 31 woman, and I'd love for you to share a bit more about that.
Yeah, so actually like a Proverbs 31 conjure woman. So grew up in the background of Christianity, and there's this woman verse, Proverbs 31 verses 10 through 31, that basically talks about all these things that a woman, the qualities that she should have, like beauty. The kids call her blessed. She wakes up early in the morning. She's a smart real estate buyer. Like she does all these things. And there was a time as a Christian, the premise of it is it's this mother giving advice to her son about what he should be looking for. And
Mm,
so the expectation is like you got to be able to do all of those things. And so when connecting to living up to that standard and having
it's
imposter
really a long
syndrome,
list, right?
oh yeah, it's yeah, it's a long list of things that she does, which is what I highlight in the book. And it's like you can just get tired, reading from all the things that that she does. And so I was dealing with the expectation that I have to do all those things and then do all those things well. And if I didn't do those things or live out that in my day to day life, I was being a fraud. It was, you're not on top of your A game. And that ultimately is what led to, coming more to about the live smart. Like, okay, how can I achieve all of these things and still maintain my sanity with all of that? And so that was the beginning of the spiritual awareness journey that I went on
Mm,
in order to achieve that. And
mm,
basically in the conjure part is taking back the power and doing those things that work for me in order to be, you know successful and happy.
yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And you bring out something in the beginning of your chapter, how we cannot control other people.
Oh
And
no. Mm-mm.
I know this, and I am constantly reminding myself of this because my mind easily wander to just the decisions of other people. How is that going to affect me, and everything that's outside of my control? So, like, what has been your way of reclaiming your power from there?
Yeah. First is starting with see myself into waking to who I am. I had to get a confident knowing of who Felicia is. And that basically started with my name, pretty much. Like, what does that mean? So, for example, for a time, it was a trigger for me to even hear my name because of the whole, Friday movie and Ice Cube and the whole Bye Felicia. And that was because if you've never seen that movie, Felicia was a drug addict. And basically, when they were
I
talking
have not
about,
seen that movie, so take it from the beginning.
yes, so in that movie, it's a comedy movie kind of thing. Felicia's a drug addict, but she's annoying. So she comes up and she asks for these weird, things. And when they want her to leave, they're basically dismissing her. And that's where the whole bye Felicia, like, go away. And so when it became this trigger of if you hadn't seen the movie, but I had, I was like, I don't want to be dismissed. I don't want to be disregarded. So it was a trigger for me. So that's where it came back to, okay, how do I reclaim the power back into my name? And my name means happy. And so basically I said, okay, all these people are basically saying is bye happy. And I would also say,
Mhm.
if it was, meant to some other way, that they're basically just saying bye to their own happiness. And so that's where it started with, like, okay, who else is Felicia happy? So that meant looking up numerology, astrology, like all these different things, my character strengths, my values, like all of those things that make up Felicia, to know more about who I am so I can awaken to that. And so that
Mhm.
was one of the ways that I can, do that. And so, as part of helping other people on that journey, is encouraging for people to, like, well, how do I learn more about myself? Like, yeah, start with Google your name. Because,
That's
I
the
ask people
most
all the
part.
time, it's like, what does your name mean? And they be like, a lot
And
of times, I
before
don't know.
yes, and since I knew this, I Googled my
Yes,
name before this.
yes, yes,
And Jenny means that God had mercy, or like God had grace.
yes. Love
Yes. So
that.
I'm just
So,
feeling that right now.
exactly. So
Hmm.
when somebody is speaking your name, and even when they are saying something that's like upsetting to you, and they mention it's like, okay, God's having mercy. It's like a reminder about
That's
that, of
amazing.
that's what
Yeah.
that is, and exude that energy versus some other story you may be connecting to what your name means.
Yes.
So that was the first part of the journey of learning more about who I am, because I can control this.
Yeah.
I'm not even
Yeah.
control, like, say, someone else, but I can control me. And so
Hmm.
that was the beginning of the Live Smart journey.
Yeah. And the beginning of our journey to our soul center, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Because
Beginning
you
where we are.
beginning exactly, where you are, and it's interesting because I can exactly remember, partly of the big aha awakening download of connecting the frustrations and the abilities that I have was, I think I just had like this big argument with my husband, and I was driving down the street, and literally, this is when people talking about Jesus take the wheel. Like, I literally just kind of threw up my hands. It was
I
like,
feel it.
okay,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to show me, like, driving. And so then there was a sign. It was like, on this white truck, and it said, "I, do not be dismayed. I'm forever your present help." And I looked around, and I was just like, okay. And so that
Hmm.
was the whole journey of, you've worked, you heard the phrase work smarter, not harder. And I worked all my, life as I learned more about myself. I'm a Capricorn, and we're about, getting things done. And it was like, now you can live smart. And so that was, part of the beginning journey of what I had to do that. Reclaiming the power, like, for example, like with my name, like, where can I reclaim this power that I have given up to so many different people and avenues, thinking I don't have a chance, I don't have this capability to do all those different things. I had to be able to reclaim, my power in that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that it's combining all these different steps, and they don't all, like, y'all, we say these things like an acronym, but they don't always happen in this order. Right? It's,
Very true.
it meets you where you're at, at the time. And, like, learning about yourself is like, I had to excavate my core values. What is it do I value?
Hmm.
And it was like, success, respect, perspective, like all of these different things, are spirituality, are my core values, and being able to put words and phrases to that, and even releasing judgment on myself, because
Hmm.
one of mine is success. And people all the time would think like, oh, you want to be successful? And, like, yeah,
Hmm.
I want prosperity and abundance and all of that. Like, I make no qualms about that. um but when you have that, like, as one of your top kind of five, people sometimes can have these judgment calls about you. So I had to reclaim the power in that aspect of it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because our core values are important to us, not only in relationship to other people, but also in relationship to ourselves. Yes, and that is
Exactly.
within our reach, always. Very, very.
Yes.
And you have authored before, Felicia.
Mhm.
So tell me a little bit about that for our audience.
Yes. So I wrote this book called Do You Feel Like a Fraud, which is all about imposter syndrome. because I grew up with these expectations that you have to be twice as good. And that is the premise of, if you're watching this, I'm an African American female. And so it was
Mm,
like, you're female and you are black. So you may not get another opportunity. So you have always got to be on your A game. And so that brought success, yes, being driven and encouraged to do all these different things. But then in my life, as you grow up, you're like, okay, you got it as a student. All right, you know, you still keep going. Okay, now you go. Now you're a wife. Mm, okay, you know you have a career. Mm-hmm. Now you got kids. Mm. So it just became heavier and heavier, and then the
mm,
expectations of Christianity, like you have to do this smoothly and well,
mm,
and it was
mm,
like, mm. But what I came to realize at that time was that with the Proverbs 31 woman, if you read that scripture, there's this one thing that stands out where it says she provides for her servants. And it was like the aha, it's like that chick had help. Like
yeah.
she meant she wasn't doing it all by her daggone self. So like, you know, it was a whole journey about getting the help. And so I wrote that book with the premise of basically if someone didn't go hire a coach, they can get it really quick, succinctly. What is imposter syndrome? And here are some tips in order to overcome it when it shows up in your life and move forward from that.
Mm,
So that was my first book of imposter syndrome.
I love
Do you
that.
feel like a fraud? Mm-hmm.
Yes, which I have read. Big parts of and absolutely love. And
Thank you.
teamwork is dream work. And I think as a leader, that's been one of the hardest realizations and one of the greatest comforts that I don't have to do it alone. And being a
No,
leader doesn't mean that I need to have all the answers. I get to connect with people on a deeper level and compliment, them and have them compliment me. And that's a great
exactly.
journey of acceptance and self-love right there.
Exactly, exactly. Because this book is an example, you know, of that. There are some of, you know, the authors that had never written a book before and have, you know,
Mm.
aspirations to become an author. Now, my thing is, you know, many times as I say, y'all are writing all the time. So it's kind of like just take some
Yeah.
of those things and just, you know, put them in this chapter, this book. But this, with it being a collaborative book, we each told our story, which then made this beautiful book of stories and sharing about all of our stories, right? Without all the stress and the relief of like, I have to write a whole entire book. I have to write this many chapters and do this many pages. And it's like, just write a couple
Mm.
pages, one
Mm.
chapter.
Yeah.
And here we made this beautiful thing. And so then now, hopefully, the ones that hadn't written before, you know, they continue like, oh, yeah, I got that. I can do this.
Mm.
Let's just
Mm.
go to the next thing and to the next thing. So we were able to help each other to ascend and make this, you know, experience happen. And so I love that.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so beautiful.
I love that. And it's from our soul, and our soul is perfect. And it's our out
It
breath.
is.
I like to think of
Yes.
life as, we are inspired by other people, we receive, we take in.
Hmm.
And if we keep all of that bottled up, like creativity that is not expressed will be experienced as anxiety. And I
Hmm.
know that many people will resonate with that. So authoring is an out breath. It's just a way of expressing that and sending that back into the universe. And as you say, we're doing it all of the time. So
Yes.
I love
Yes.
that.
Yes. I
I
love
want to
that.
I want to dive into your smart, Felicia, because that's really like I want to get to know you.
Yeah.
Um, S is for see yourself and awaken,
Yeah.
and you already shared like the
Premise
importance.
behind what, yeah. Hmm.
Yes, yes. So
Yep.
take us to M and master your emotions, because I know you bring up that it's really healthy for us to pause at times and ask ourselves, what am I feeling right now? And I
Hmm.
know for many people, that's a big step even to put into words. So I'm really curious to know, like, what's been helpful for you to just evolve into this healthy relationship with your emotions?
Yeah. So the M stands for master your emotions. And so the history for me was grew up in a military family background. It's about the goal, it's getting it done. So I would squash any emotions that I would have. And so anything that you may have slightly have gotten a idea about would have maybe been like anger or mad. But again, as African American female, I would really squash that down even more so because I didn't want the stereotype of the mad, angry black woman. So imagine that you're just squashing, squashing, squashing. And so I didn't have any vocabulary really for my words. And what I found is that oftentimes people usually don't. When you ask someone how they're feeling, listen to them because they usually don't give you a feeling word. They will describe the situation, but
Mm.
they don't give you a word like jealous, frustrated, content, bored. Like there's no clarity around that. And so that's what I had to learn how to do is to understand what those emotions meant. And one of the tools that helped me was the emotional guidance scale. And it's oftentimes we talk about it, but people talk about, you know, oh, they were on a downward spiral. And that emotion scale is in the pictorial graph of a spiral. And so it's a visual of what people are doing. The negative, low vibe feelings are at the bottom. And so that if you continue to circle there, you stay there. But that path was about discovering where you're at on that scale because you're not always going to be high, you're not always going to be low, but you got to understand where you're at, why you're there, release the judgment of yourself of why you're there, but then decide how you're going to move from a higher vibration to a lower vibration. So I had to learn how to master going from not necessarily from like a low one to the very tippy top, but maybe I go too higher. You know, if I'm angry, I'm like, okay, well, I'm realizing that I'm jealous. Jealous is better than angry. Okay.
Mm.
I'm bored. Bored is better than angry. So it's like you're working your way back up that. So that's the tool that helped me to master my emotions. And then the A stands for ask, believe, and receive.
Can we pause there
Yeah.
first?
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
I remember when you showed a spiral, we were talking about this, and this is the beauty of our team that we're all learning and growing together as we evolve this company and serve our people. So I
Mhm.
remember when you were showing this, and it's what comes up for me is that it's so easy for people to label emotions as bad or good. But
Mhm.
what you are saying is that it's our opening up to the teaching of our situation that will
Exactly.
equip us and help us grow through it.
Exactly. Because the premise becomes what's good, what's bad. If never heard about the Chinese proverb story about the farmer, and basically he goes through all these different occurrences and he's going back and forth with his neighbors like, oh, that's so bad, and oh, that's so good, or so bad. And it's like, is it really? It's like, what does that situation bring forth that helps you to ascend to become better? It's if you awaken to yourself to realize, okay, this is the experience that I have in my life. Now, how do I, deal with this? And so that's where the scale helps. And yeah, it just gives you a visual of where you're at. Because a lot of times we're visual people, right?
Yeah, it is
Mm.
helpful. And even my anger teaches me that I stand for something. It's a good
Exactly.
thing.
I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of things have gotten done out of somebody's anger.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe some new law was passed or something happened because they were angry about something that happened. So then it becomes, do you, is the anger bad? Mm.
Mm,
If it helped catapult something that turned into something else to help to
mm,
sustain something that happened in our society. And so it's seeing the higher picture, the higher perspective of these things, and that's what the breath framework is about. That's what the live smart concept of what I live for helps me
mm,
to understand that.
mm.
So then
Beautiful.
the A, and
Me,
I just want to
ask
give you,
and receive. I've been doing
yeah.
my studies. I read up.
You certainly have. And so ask, believe, and receive was a deeper exploration for me to figure out what is it that I want. You ask someone, what is that they want, listen to what their answer is, and a lot of times people will go fluidly into what they don't want because they don't know what they do want. Well, I know I don't want this, and I don't want that, and I don't want this. And it's like, well, what do you want? And they're not really sure. So that sent me on the exploration of figuring out what is it that I want? What is it that I hope to inspire to have in my life? And then do I believe I can receive it? Because then there are times you can even say, oh, I want this, but I don't really think it's going to be able to happen, or it's just this pipe dream or whatever. And it's like you're already speaking against something that you want
Mm,
because you don't believe it. If you don't believe it, you're not going to receive it. So that was exploration, journaling,
mm,
and understanding the power of what it is that you really want, connecting to my values, to who I am, all those different things.
mm,
And then the next one was the, as I got the message, because I got this one from A Different World, was the relax, relate, and release. I was always constantly doing. I was a human doing versus a human being because that was where the success, the gratification came from always doing. So I didn't really know how to rest and how to relax. I had experiences connected to the emotions that I was squashing that I had to learn how to release some things that were no longer serving me. I had to learn how to forgive. I had to learn to forgive myself, how to forgive others. And that's where, with the whole, I know EPEC is on here with us and about the whole Ponopono. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Were things that I practice in other forms of meditation that would help me to be able to ascend higher and
mm,
clear out things that were no longer, serving me, right? So then, as you continue, because it's a whole journey, right? You continue to do all these different things. And then finally, I realized, because I'm a Star Wars fan, so my other message came from Master Yoda, is talk wisely. What are the things that I was saying to myself and out loud that was not wisdom? For example, the word trying. Trying is a struggle word. Look it up. It technically means difficult, hard to endure. So put whatever it is that I want. Oh, I'm trying to release this way, or I'm trying to get a new job. I'm already speaking struggle into that. That's speaking disbelief, limiting beliefs that I'm not gonna be able to have those things. So I had to learn how to change my vocabulary. Should. That's just the energy of could and shame together. It's not a
mm,
high vibe word. I can't.
mm,
So because I'm an efficient and I'm, you know, streamlined, I basically then that became live smart. And that helps me to remember all of those elements very quickly of okay, where you're at, what's going on here. And so that's just how I now live out the life in order to I can maintain that happiness that I want to have.
mm.
So yep.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yes, it's so true that we are sometimes slow to ask for what we want, and sometimes we don't even know what we want. So I tell my clients sometimes, like, "What do you want?" Thing the thing that I'm finding is that they don't always feel worthy
Oh yeah.
of
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
and which is leading to a whole lot of self sabotage. Like we know we do well from enough sleep. We know that we do well from exercise, and there's a list that easily gets to be our to-do list, and it's supposed to be our pleasure list because we're worthy of receiving that good life.
Yeah.
So tell me just more about your worthy journey, like worthy of receiving those good things. What's that been like for you?
Um, I think mine was in the sense of it wasn't that I didn't think I was worthy because I was achieving them. I had them. It was the maintaining part. Um, it was if I didn't have the skills or there's something in order to achieve something, that's where the fraudish feelings came in. So part of my journey of growing up is that think of it this way, my nickname was Brain. So you put that in the context of how I grew up was that I was like my parents, Google, Siri, you know, like all of that into one. And it was like, oh, ask Brain, she can figure it out. oh, she knows the answers. And so if I didn't know the answer, it was like, oh my gosh, like whereas the the accolades, the love, because love language one of mine is words of affirmation, is that I'm not the brain, and that's a false. And then I didn't want my parents to be, look like they didn't know what they were talking about. So the worthiness came into, yeah, I have those things, but it was the maintaining it. That's what was
Mm,
stressful. And then
mm,
if I didn't, but what would happen was is that if you don't know something behind the scenes, I'm gonna research the heck out of it. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna learn how to do it, which gave me more knowledge, which eventually would give me more success. And so you see, it was like this endless kind of cycle, which was the doing, 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 versus of what I don't know, and being comfortable in the I don't
mm.
know, but do I even want to bother finding out? Like
Yeah, right.
I don't
Would I
have
enjoy
anything to
finding out?
prove. Yeah. I don't have to prove I'm smart. I don't have to prove I'm the brain. I don't have to prove any
Mm,
of that. I can
mm,
just be who I am.
mm.
But it took a little journey to figure that out.
Beautiful, beautiful. You are an excellent coach when it comes to limiting beliefs. So I wanted to dig into that a bit and
Yeah.
just to make that concrete.
Hmm.
For example, if there is a viewer who is, playing with the thought of starting to post on LinkedIn, but they wake up in the morning and they tell themselves, I can't. I am not one of those people who post on LinkedIn and share my own content and my own ideas and thoughts and longings and just like what what would you say to them?
Yeah. It would be a question. Because what I found is that asking questions, you get more insight into what that really is about. And it's interesting. No accident that you picked that particular example because that was an experience that I had of my own. So, Annie is great, as our leader of our team, and she has like all these posts and content. And I remember in our early conversations together, I had asked her, I was like, when do you find the time? Like, how do you just flow with all of this amazing content and pictures and you can just share? Because I'm like, I'm not one of those people that just wake up and just say, I'm just going to put content onto the social media. But the standard is that in order to be found, you have to do all that and consistency. But it wasn't aligning with me. It wasn't high vibe with me. And so, as we go on and we progress, and she's been a great example, and I would see her post, it would be, I would have to process the feelings. So I was asking myself these questions. It's like, well, how do I feel about this post or that post? And it's like, it could be, the word that people are afraid to use is like, oh, am I jealous? Like, dang, she'll post something and have like, you know, 200 something comments or likes in like 25 minutes. Right. Right. You're
Yeah.
like, and so it was the story of being like, oh, well, nobody, comments on your stuff because you're not as valuable. And like you process all of that. So that's why I would say with someone, depending on what that is, figuring out what those questions were. And what I had found is that in my situation, it was I'm more video content. I'm more connected to asking people certain questions. I realized that that's my sharing of the content. So then it became freeing for me of, okay, I'm gonna do these live shows, touch people how I am, where I'm at and where they're at, and that's how my content is shared. But I had to figure out that, I'm comfortable with that. I'm not gonna look like everyone else, and it's okay um, with that. So all that to say, it's not me telling them something specifically, more so what I realize I'm really good at asking questions that gets down to the FUD, and that stands
Mm,
for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And based off of what they say, or sometimes what they don't say, um, we can figure out what's the real reason why they're not posting
yeah.
content and doing all that. And for me, it was that people would judge me based off what I was sharing, coming from a Christian background, talking about spirituality, cards, like all the stuff that would come with that, that I was afraid that I would be ostracized, misunderstood, you remember, dismissed. And you had that fear of like you don't want to be dismissed. And so yeah, that's how I would connect with people, is asking them those questions.
Hmm. And like you say, Felicia, you will listen to what they say and what they don't say. Because of your presence, you will take in that whole room and that whole person and everything, all the energy around that. And it's super powerful to see you go about it. Definitely. Yeah. And it's
Thank you.
beautiful that our life, like we've gone through smart, living smart,
Hmm.
and how well it aligns with the breath. And
Hmm.
it's this is the way we are. This is the way we show up, the way we complement one another with our life journeys, and how we bring that to the breath framework team. So,
Exactly.
just to close this, please share me a bit of what do you see in the breath framework that you're not seeing somewhere else right now?
A lot of what I enjoy about the breath framework is that it is not a prescribed model, and I think I love the fact that it's the framework. It's not a you gotta do A, B, C, D, and it has to be done in this order. If you don't do it in this order, you're not going to experience the revelation or the change. The breath framework is about meeting you right where you are, asking those soulful type questions to help you to get to your healing. And that's a key word, I think, at the very end is the healing part, which a lot of formulas are saying they're going to fix you, is either just stuck at the judgment part of just saying this is what you have and not telling you how to, helping you to progress, to go through that, which is the breath framework gives you those things. It gives you tools, it gives you freedom to be who you are, the allow. It doesn't have to always be, as we say, cute and clean and then a little bow tie kind of thing. It's flowing to ultimately to get to heal. If we can heal ourselves from a lot of the things that we were from where we began to where we are now today, a lot more of the programs would be better in that sense. Another key thing about the breath framework, it's personal. And with it being personal, a lot of those other programs, oh, you can watch a video, you can do this, or it doesn't get down to your specific scenario. And that's what I love about this coaching, this framework, is that it's a lot of times one-on-one coaching to help you with your questions in a safe space to be able to share without the fear of the judgment. Because we have a variety of coaches also that we can connect with. Like for example, you are going to be a different style of coach than I'm a different style of a coach. That's a different style of coach from EPEC, from Heather, from Kelly, from Liz. Like we're all different, but we collaborate well together to be able to help people to heal without getting caught up in all the ego stuff. This is what I love about the breath framework about it. Mm.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for listening. And I will be back
Yes.
here next week with another amazing author to share more insights and really, really great teachings. It was really special
Yes.
this time with you, Felicia. Thank
And
you.
thank you, Jenny, for co-creating with me. And thank you for those that were in the audience tuning in live and those on the replay. No judgment, just love and support. Indeed.
Yes. Love. Bye.
Bye, everybody.